Hello, my name is Josh Mack, and today's mini TED Talk, I'm going to talk to you about deer overpopulation and our responsibility for it. By the end of the 19th century, market and subsistence hunting had decimated deer populations within the U.S. as a whole. They were around 300,000 scientists guesstimate, and that is a low population that may put them on the verge of extinction themselves. However, thanks to conservation efforts by states within the U.S. over the past 100 years or so, that population has actually grown to 30 million. However, the issue with such a dramatic increase of 9,900% is that we as human beings haven't had to rely so much on hunting our own food. And so, because of this and because of our increases of population within the US, deer populations have skyrocketed because not only are they not being hunted as often for food, but their natural predators, such as wolves, coyotes, and so on, have had their own ecological areas shrunk because of urbanization with human beings. Now, one of the big issues with this is that high deer density is directly affecting the composition as well of woody and herbaceous vegetation, which is indirectly impacting wildlife. Well, when you look at that, you say, well, how can that be? Well, if we go and we look within forests ourselves, one of the trees that deer themselves love to feed on is oaks. And with the high increase in deer populations and large deer herds roaming such forests now, oak trees are not being able to regenerate as often because you have multiple deer feeding on these oaks. And in place of that, you have such other trees um, becoming more prevalent within our ecosystem. Another good example of this is orchids and lilies, another great delicacy for deer to feed on, have dwindled over the years because they love to be fed on by deer. And so we're seeing these decreases, and while they may not be right in our face, if we don't do something about this soon, we might start seeing extinctions of other plants and animals, such as, small critters such as squirrels, small birds that rely on coverage from the ground, where deer will eat many of the vegetation that's on there, to hide from other predators such as hawks, eagles, stuff like that. Um, we'll also start to see an increase in Lyme disease because the more deer there are, the more ticks that carry such diseases will increase as well. So you'll see more hospitalizations for Lyme disease in young children. That is very, in particular, dangerous because their immune systems can't hold up to it. And so, us as a society, while it was great that we saved a species from extinction, it is now also our responsibility to try and curb this overpopulation of deer within our United States, because there is such a thing as overcorrection. And the issue we will face if we don't try and get this fixed in some way, shape, or form, whatever that is, whether it's increasing hunting seasons, whether it's setting up bait traps and culling deer populations, but in a way that is humane, making sure that the deer that we cull, we don't just throw away. We recycle them into food products for whether it's the poor or whatever it is. We need to grab a hold of this, because if we don't do this now, what these tiny little things that we're already saying, where less oaks are within our forest, where less orchids and wild lilies are within our forests, it's going to get worse, and it's gonna be a drip down effect. With less of that, you're gonna see less birds of prey because they're not gonna have as much food to hunt, because they're going to be able to just grab them all. We're going to see, larger issues of health issues with, like I said, Lyme disease and possibly other diseases that deer might carry. And so we as a society need to realize that while it's great that we saved a species from extinction, that we did good, that we now need to also realize that we have to help keep our ecological system within balance. If there's an imbalance within our ecosystem, it could be catastrophic. And there may be a day where we will have to tell our kids that something in a book, whether it's a tree, whether it's a small critter, whether it's something else. Hey, I remember when these used to be here, but now you get to see them in a book. And I feel like us as people wouldn't want that. We'd want to say, hey, look, there is that. You would want them to see that, not in zoos, but in the wild where they're all at. And so that's just a little bit of info on deer overpopulation and what our issues are pertaining to it and how we can maybe hopefully try and curb this. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.